Welcome to the morning meeting. Thanks for joining everybody, whether you're on YouTube or here on Two-Way. We're grateful to have you. This is a conversation, despite what some people think, that's neither left nor right. We want to appeal to moderate centrists and independents and people on the left and the right, including the far left and right, because we believe this is one of the few forums where the conversation like that can take place. We think we're onto a new big topic Sean and Tim and I are going to talk about in a moment, which is the question of whether Republicans are now underestimating not just how well Kamala Harris is doing, but the sources of her appeal, and whether they're doing that in a way that kind of mirrors what Democrats did for years and continue to do with Donald Trump. Vice President's in Washington today, and she heads to Houston for a couple events tonight. Donald Trump is going to Chicago to speak to the National Association of Black Journalists. The day book we sent around said that event's at 11 a.m. Eastern time. It's actually at 1 p.m. Eastern time, 1 p.m. Eastern time. And then he's got a rally in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, where we'll see if he's got a new message, a new frame on Kamala Harris. There's some indications that he's going to talk more about her role in the Biden-Harris administration as opposed to her past comments, but we shall see. President Biden is having lunch with the vice president in Washington. And then he's got a bunch of private meetings, including with Penny Pritzker to talk about Ukraine. J.D. Vance is in Glendale, Arizona, 8 o'clock Eastern time rally tonight. And the second gentleman continues to fundraise in New England. All right, guys, that's a lot of events. Again, the marquee event may well be the two Trump events to see where his head is at in trying to change the dynamics of this race. So I look at a lot of Republican media. I talk to a lot of Republicans, and I think they look at what's happening with Kamala Harris. They call it a sugar high. They say it's all based on the media. They don't seem to have done a lot of thinking about why people are gravitating towards her. And Sean, I'll start with you. Is that guilty as charged for your party, and how do you snap them out of it?
I think for a lot, we don't appreciate the change that the race has and the dynamics that have shifted and what she brings to the table. Ben Carson called it out on Tucker. Newt Gingrich has a great op-ed at Fox News. But I think that the warning needs to go out far and wide. This is not Biden anymore. We have a new race. The dynamics in terms of the coalitions that are energized has changed. And the swing state polls, I get it, it's a sugar high, but to think that this was going to be a close race, you got rid of the guy, they pushed him out, it's over. And now we revert back to a traditional tight race, and our folks need to wake up and understand that.
Yeah, look, if we are going to go with the sugar high, though, I guess that's just our new blue wave. We'll just push that until November. I think, Sean, I totally agree. The demographics, whether you're looking at geographically, swing states, demographically, there's a boost there. I don't see it really going away. We've talked about whether or not Trump had a time to define Harris. He outspent her like 25-1 in advertising for the week that she was picked. She was down. We've seen no outcome from that looks like it's good for Republicans. And I think, look at the rally yesterday in Atlanta. The energy there is insane. Georgia is absolutely back on the map. And I think Republicans are also underestimating the historic nature of the candidacy, that we have the opportunity to elect the first woman and the first Black woman to the presidency. And I don't think that's nothing. And I don't think calling her, kooky or weird is really going to do it.
Sean, let's reverse engineer. If you're Mar-a-Lago, you've got the Black Journalist event, you've got the rally in Harrisburg. What, if you could write the headline, what would the headline you'd want coming out of those two events be? As applies to this question of approaching the Harris phenomenon.
Well, I think first, the NABJ is a great opportunity for him to really hone in on a message to Black men. There's a huge opportunity for that. So, I mean, I think Trump makes picks to Black men as to why his administration was better. Something along those lines. He's got to really hone in on that demographic with that event specifically. And then, I'm sorry, what was the second part of your question?
Well, what would you want the headline of the rally to be?
I think it's more Trump hones in on Harris policies. Look, this can't be a personality race. No one cares about that stuff for the most part. I think he's got to literally just go. I think it was said yesterday on the morning meeting, but like clip after clip after clip. Here's what she said on immigration. Here's what. In fact, I would go back up to the screens. He used them that fateful day at Butler, but I'd go back up. Here's her talking about immigration. He doesn't need to say it. Let her speak for herself through a series of clips. Use those and utilize those at the rallies.
The one thing I'll
Okay.
say that I do like that the Harris campaign did yesterday, and we talked about in the morning meeting, is we played the Trump ad on immigration, and we did see Harris. I don't think there's money behind it, but they did cut a digital ad responding to that, talking about it just how we talked about it here. So they're on like very sure footing, and I
Yep.
think that is also one thing to note about the Harris campaign is like this is not 2019, it's not 2020. She's got a fully developed infrastructure, super talented staff, and that is a huge difference maker.
So
And
David in chat, by the way,
just doing the rapid response, right? The voters probably not going to see that digital video. I don't even think they're putting money behind it on digital, and it's like some weird length. It's not a TV length, but
Same.
just showing people like Tim Hogan, we're nimble. We're in the news cycle. We're putting a video together. It's great for morale, and it keeps this notion of their confidence up front and center. Sorry, Sean, go ahead.
I'd say two things. One, the Trump campaign needs to show leadership on issues and on messaging. By that, I mean, when he goes to that rally saying, these are the three things that we're going to go after on, he needs to tell the faithful, guys, this is what the focus is, and don't go outside of that. But those messages from up high need to come to David in the chat is talking about immigration, the economy. That's exactly right. We need to stay focused on issues, but that message needs to come from up top and saying, this is the focus of this election. This is how you do it. These are the tools that you have to, at your disposal, and stay focused.
Okay. Again, if you want to get in the conversation, please raise your electronic hand. When we call on you, tell us where you are, who you're supporting. If you know in the presidential race, we'll get to you guys in a second. Deep stakes. I'm back to Shapiro. I'd say in my order, Shapiro, Buttigieg, Waltz, in that order of likelihood. And I think they've done a very good job. If you look at the battleground state papers today, almost all of them have a pretty prominent story that says next week, Kamala Harris and her running mate are coming to our state. And so I think you're going to see, in the olden days when presidents got a lot of coverage, you'd see local coverage would be here he comes, here he is, there he goes. You get at least 3 days and sometimes 5 days of coverage. They've teed this thing up, this tour, to get that. And so even if the nominee, the Republican, the vice presidential nominee has some blemishes, and everybody does, I think they have a good chance of papering that over with just boffo momentum coverage that takes them right into the eve of Chicago in a way that may allow them to own August. What do you think, Tim?
Two tells. Go ahead, Tim.
No, I was just going to say, look, I think what the Harris campaign has shown too, and since she's been at the top of the ticket, is like there's a lot more flexibility in how they're dealing with earned media, and it's going to different places. It's a strategy like this. I don't know what it would have been like previously. I will just say on Veep Stakes, though, they are going to do their first rally in Philadelphia. Everyone thought, well, then it must be Shapiro. But if you look back at Kerry, Obama, McCain, Romney, Hillary, Trump, Biden, never went to the state first that their vice presidential pick was from to make the introduction. And it is ending in Western Wisconsin, which is basically Eastern Minnesota. It's Tim Walz.
I thought you were going to go with Tony Evers.
Yeah.
So here's my 2 cents on this. One, if you look at the battleground states coming out of Bloomberg today, the one state that Trump still holds or significant lead is Pennsylvania, actually. That buttresses my case for Shapiro as well, which I've never wavered on. I just think that right now, if that closes that, it keeps every state in play. It makes it for a much harder game for the Trump campaign. Secondly, hat tip on Axios on this. I think one of the big tells was this call to donors in the financial services that the Harris campaign made. The SEC, the Securities and Election Commission, has a regulation that prohibits state officials from giving to tickets, state officials. So that, to me, singles out a governor, right? You wouldn't have to say that if it was going to be Mark Kelly. And I would say that this continues the Shapiro thing. The one last thing I would say, I'm not wavering in my Shapiro pick, but I will say this: Mayor Pete has been on a heck of a earned media tour the last 96 hours trying to find any reason to be in the news. And so I don't know if he's just making his valiant case here. It's an interesting dynamic that's occurring.
Right. So there's all these switcheroos that have taken place, right, since the swap. And here's a big one to me. And it would be buttressed by it being either Pete Buttigieg or Josh Shapiro. The Trump campaign, this entire cycle against Biden, had been operating on the premise: what's mine is mine, and what yours will negotiate over. They've been going for demographic groups that vote Democratic, or Democrat groups that they think they can get some of, like young black men. Pete Buttigieg and Josh Shapiro speak to MAGA Republicans better than any two Democrats in the country, I think. They know how to go on Fox. I'm not saying they're going to win a lot, Sean, but I guarantee you that they will go out and they will make the case in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, in Arizona, on issues where they can show we understand the economic concerns you have, we understand the cultural concerns you have. If they can get a slice of that, that's the whole
like
election.
going back to my Shapiro case, during his race for governor, here's all he got more Trump endorsements like from Trump supporters.
Yeah.
Again, this just goes back to it's pure and simple numbers. If you really want to carry Pennsylvania and put this race make it much tighter, pick Shapiro. I don't know that Mayor Pete brings anything.
Well, he's got national security experience. He's great on TV, and he would never call Trump supporters deplorable. He just doesn't. That's just not his mentality.
Are we talking about Governor Walz? I really do think he is like a sleeper.
No, only you are talking about Governor.
I have the Minnesota hoodie on today. Look,
weird how you do that.
He's from a town of 400. He's talking about pheasant hunting yesterday in terms of talking about reducing gun violence. He has a message that I think he could bring across the Midwest. So
he's in my top 3, Tim.
Let's make it top 1 or 2.
Okay,
no,
fine.
but I agree. I think Shapiro is probably leading the pack right now. But I do think for Governor Walz, like he also has that ability to speak to those people, and whoever it is,
right.
Mark, to your point, very, very important that they have that skill set, particularly in the blue wall states.
Yep. All right, Mike, where are you? Who are you for? And go.
Delaware County, Pennsylvania. I guess my thought is I think in like 3
Mike,
months.
I'm interrupting you to ask who are you supporting, or do you not know?
Right now, Harris. Okay. And I think in 3 months, we're going to look back and say this race ended at 7:25 p.m. last night when she went and said to Trump, like, say it to my face. And I think that I think the theory of this election is going to be pretty simple, which is like 4 months ago, like 70% of this country said they wanted a different candidate. And one party actually moved on that in a ugly, painful, kind of like strange way. And I think had like Republicans, put forth Nikki Haley, like I probably would have voted for Nikki Haley over Biden. But
Mike, did you vote? Did you vote for Trump either time, 16 or 20?
No, I didn't. But I will say the first election I ever voted for, I voted for McCain in a primary against George W. Bush. So, I mean, I'm not like, I'm only voting Democratic, but I think that this country has wanted to move forward. And right now, Harris is talking about the future. And that's what people want to hear. I think more people want to hear that than people want to hear the hits. And I think saying this stuff to Trump, like say it to my face, is going to provoke a reaction that's going to be like the last 10 years, which people want to move forward on. And so anyway, that's my thought. I mean, Sean, if you're giving advice to people, I would tell him don't react. If he wants to win, he should stay in Mar-a-Lago and not do whatever he's going to probably do.
I will just say really quickly on this, on swapping off of the ticket. I mean, we've seen, I think, movement in 2 really key metrics that will matter in this election. One is base enthusiasm. It's like totally flipped on its head for Democrats. And 2 is early indications from folks who are a smaller slice of the electorate now than when Biden was at the top of the ticket, but the double haters, those folks have moved by like 20, 25 points, depending on what poll you're looking at, towards Harris. So I think you're right. We gave them something they were asking for. And just very quickly on the Trump debate, people are saying in the chat, Trump doesn't need to debate. He might not need to debate. He might need to if the trajectory continues, but I also don't think he's going to be able to resist. I don't think personally he's going to be able to resist it.
And we may have, if he continues to have a bad run, we may have history repeat itself where the candidate who feels they've lost the edge calls for an early debate, screws it up, and seals his fate. I'm not predicting that, but that could happen, right? Trump could push for a debate who says, I need one as early as possible to put the circuit breaker on her momentum. And maybe he wouldn't do well. Maybe he would. I don't know. Mike, thank you. Go ahead, Sean.
The point that Mike's making overall, I think, is smart, which is whoever baits the other person into saying something first is going to fit that. And I think she's trying to bait him. I agree with Mike. Hopefully he doesn't take it. But conversely, they're trying to get her to respond to some of her past comments as well.
The quote in the Washington Post from someone they claim is kind of like someone familiar with the Trump campaign. It said, we know he's going to say racist and sexist things. There's nothing we can do. is one of the quotes of the whole cycle, and it speaks to what Mike's talking about, which is if she's going to challenge him, and he may not be able to resist that, and he may then screw it up further. Mike, thank you. That was awesome. Jared, come on in. Tell us where you are, who you're supporting, and ask away.
Morning. I'm a big fan of the platform. I'm coming from Westchester, New York, voting for Harris. And my question is just some inside baseball stuff. A few weeks ago, we heard rumors about potential changes or additions to the Harris campaign, some Obama folks or other folks coming in, and that has kind of gone quiet. I'm curious if you all are hearing anything about any additions to that team.
Tim, you want to go first?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I know that was a conversation a week ago. There was rumor mill swirling. I have not heard any further development or news there. Mark, I don't know about you.
So remember, the premise was, it's been such an extraordinary week, right? So the premise from Joe Biden and from some other Democrats, including Nancy Pelosi, was we are maybe making huge mistakes here. We're swapping out the one candidate who can't win for the other candidate who can't win. And maybe we need an open process. And for a variety of reasons that have not yet been fully publicly reported, they chose to go with her, right? Consolidate around her. And then the premise was, well, her team is going to, her team is going to need help. Let's get David Plouffe or Jim Messina or somebody in there. Things are going pretty well right now. And the team that's there are proud professionals who have the attitude, maybe we don't need somebody coming in to layer us. We need full authority. So would Plouffe come in as kind of a supporting role, somebody like that, in a role like that? Maybe. But I think it kind of defies the experience of the last 8 days or so to say we need the cavalry here, because the forces that are there are doing pretty well. So I don't know the state of play of it, but I wouldn't be surprised now if nobody came in, because they got a team that's, got a pretty good track record for a little bit over a week. Jared, did you have another inside baseball or other question?
No, thank you.
Okay, Jared, let me ask you one question. Vice President said to you, Jared, things are going well, but I want to make sure I win. What should I do? What's a piece of advice you give her?
I would encourage the president to focus on winning and not making gestures to pacify people who are very loud online, not real life.
So do you mean that to pacify her left?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, focus on the general win. That's got to be the goal.
Yeah, so you basically tell her what Al Davis would say: just win, baby.
Just win.
Except maybe you wouldn't call the vice president baby. Jared, thank you, man. Appreciate it. Let's bring Pete in. Pete, I can tell everybody's a Californian who supports Donald Trump. So Pete, unmute, go ahead.
Yes, thanks, Mark. I remember back the vibe in 2004, 2008 with Barack Obama, and he said there's not a black America, there's not a white America, there's the United States of America. I'm not feeling that vibe now. I'm feeling that Kamala Harris is saying there is a black America, there is a white America, there is white dudes for Harris, there is white women for Harris. And I feel kicked to the curb that I'm not part of her team and she doesn't want me on the team. That I'm the weird guys in the working states where I grew up in Ohio, and she wants to run without us. And I think that's a mistake, because I think she's going to need the white working class in Ohio who supported Obama. But I don't see them even reaching out to this demographic anymore, and I think it's a mistake.
I mean,
if she reaches at you, exactly, you should have joined White Man for Harris. If she reaches out to you during the convention, Pete, will that be soon enough? Because I think she's going to do that.
That could help. I mean, she gave an updated version of the Barack speech. Hey, I'm for all America. Knock off this white Trump, white red dogs. For that's just so annoying to have everyone breaking down this thing by race, for crying out loud. I mean, come on. Obama in 2008 got the vibe because he was trying to bring people together. Now is driving people apart. And we're the last demographic, white guys, who can be called weird, and no one thinks that's weird.
I don't think that the narrative can change. I mean, she has spent the last week breaking up America into white dudes, right-handed people that, I mean, everything's a coalition to her. So I don't think you can then turn around and say we're all in this together.
So I don't think she's going to get back to Barack Obama coalition of the working voters in the battleground states. I think the people that supported Barack back in 2008 was the people who I know, And I don't think they're coming back to unless she change. She could change. She could do a Sister Soldier. I think it'd be great for her companion, and more importantly, I think it'd be great for the country if she
What
could
does
do that.
Just out of curiosity, what does that look like? Like, what could she do? I assume you're highly skeptical, but like, what could she do that would make you think like, oh, well, I will consider her?
She would have to basically, dust off Obama's 2008 speech and update it. I just read it here a few minutes ago. His big line, hey, there's not a white America, not a black America. Knock off this affinity group, Zoom call. She just overtly tell people to stop doing that kind of stuff. I'm here for everybody, and I'm here for America.
Got it. I want to ask you before we bring in somebody else. You've been very bullish on Trump's chances against Biden and against Harris. Is Harris's current run causing you to wonder whether she's going to win, or you still think Trump all the way?
I think she could win.
Will win.
But I think that in the end, she's going to not. She won't do what I recommend, and she will then lose the battleground states because she's going to irritate everybody that she needs to get on board to sort of to take her over the edge.
All right, Pete. Thank you, man. Always a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much. Again, if you want to get in the conversation, I have a couple more moments left. Love to get in folks who have not been part of this discussion before. So if you want to join in, please raise your hand. Let's bring in Rick Hall. Rick, remind everybody where you are, who you support after you unmute. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm in South Carolina, and I'm a conservative. I never actually have voted for Trump because it doesn't really matter here. But if I made a difference, I'd vote for Trump over Harris, I think.
How are you feeling about the race right now?
Well, I wanted to ask the experts. For so long we heard two things about the Biden-Trump race. One was they're both running against the only respective Democrat Republican that the other can beat, right? Biden is the only Democrat that Trump can beat, and Trump is the only Democrat that Biden can beat, or Republican, sorry. So that's where we are now. And, if this sugar high is going to end, it better end pretty quick. And the other thing we always heard is if the election was going to be held today, Donald Trump would win. And, again, that's been turned on its head. So I think if you had to look at it on Wednesday, July 30th, I think if the election was today, she could very well win.
It's the 31st, just for the record. So do you make her the favorite right now, Rick?
At the very least, it's neck and neck. At the very least, if it's a 51-49, I'd give her the 51 just because of the movement, just because of the.
And even though you're not a Trump supporter, Rick, what would you tell Donald Trump he needs to do to win?
Shut up and make ads that show that she the day of the murder of a popular Hispanic cop in San Francisco, she told the community that she wasn't going to seek the death penalty. And Dianne Feinstein stood up at his funeral and said, "Oh, yes, we are." And law enforcement has hated her from that day. Let her speak for herself and shut up. It's so problematic to run against a woman. You guys talked about that yesterday or the day before, because everything you say about her is either sexist or racist. Well, no, it isn't. So shut up and let her speak.
Thank you, Rick. Guys, you want to comment?
Yeah, first I'd say, Rick, I love the glasses, and it makes me feel like we could win you over to the left if we could persuade you. It's possible. I
have them in 16 colors.
I might wear those glasses. No, but it does in particular, the question on what would you say that Trump should do, shut up, is a little indicative of like, he feels he could win, but he feels like his liabilities, his burdens have exploded with Harris on the other side of the ticket, that he's going to get baited into saying some stupid things. And just to Rick's point on the previous law enforcement experience, I mean, look, she's been painted there, and I think this is to her advantage moving forward as too soft on crime, too lefty on crime, too far to the right on crime. Kamala's a cop. And honestly, it gives her some room to define who she is still. And I think that is an advantage that's very odd that you get from swapping someone in and the ticket with 100 days left.
Well, I just say I agree with Rick that the more that she speaks for herself, not off a teleprompter, the more that they can get her to respond to previous comments, the better.
I'm not sure she'll speak off the teleprompter, hold a press conference, or do a major interview in the next 90 days. Maybe she will, but maybe she
Well,
won't.
by
All
the
right,
way,
Rick,
hey,
Rick, put the glasses, Amazon glasses link in the chat, please, so we can have
Yeah,
some
based on the
morning
chat.
meeting.
That's
Morning
where I get
meeting,
them. I
merch.
buy them 6 at a time.
Yeah, put the
Well,
link in the chat. Go ahead, Sean. Thank you, Rick.
Good point. There's some complaining among the press corps last night, whining about access to Kamala, but I think that you bring up a bigger point, which is the idea that she is not potentially going to do the big interviews or whatever. I mean, that I get it, that she'll probably get away with that, but the idea that she is not going to have the level of scrutiny potentially is, I think, a concern. And what, whatever I'd take what I could get away with as much as I could. So I'm not.
Yeah.
Look,
She's going to get less scrutiny than JD Vance is getting.
Less what?
I mean, JD Vance in the last week, there've been more, negative stories, investigative stories, repertorial stories about JD Vance than there have been about Kamala Harris. And last I checked, he's at the bottom of the ticket.
Well, he's historically, I mean, there's also a difference there. Like, he's historically tanking and she's historically doing well. I mean, like, also,
but that's not the press's job.
But
the press's job is not to cheerlead for the high rising candidate.
Sure. But I will make one prediction. I think she will sit for interviews. It will happen.
Yeah.
I think they are in a moment right now where they're just going to keep the momentum going.
I could drop a list of names for people who she'll do interviews with and when she won't, by the way. I think. Go ahead, Sean.
But also, I was just going to say, let's face it. I mean, when you have a press corps that's like, Harris comes out strongly against fracking, when there are multiple videos of her with reporters saying, I am adamantly against it. If you had that kind of fawning press corps, you'd be surging too.
But just to that point, Sean, it's also a problem with the Trump folks that they can't figure out which way they want to go with that. She wants to ban fracking, or it's the Biden record. She's always Biden.
I agree.
You have to pick two. It's not.
I agree, Tim. And she skips the Association of Black Journalists, and it's like, whatever. It's all focused on Trump going as a negative, as opposed to her skipping it. So, all right. So she's got a rally tonight, or event tonight. Trump's got his rally in Pennsylvania, the Trump interview. We will be back tomorrow, the three of us, 9 a.m. Eastern time. I will probably be back later today for a two-way, and watch your inbox on my Twitter feed for notification of when that is. I'm trying to time it just right for when we expect news.
I don't know, Mr. Shaw there, ML Shaw, he has been diligent with his hand up. I know we're over, but
okay. All right. You want to get Mr. Shaw in because he's been so demonstrative?
I may regret this, but
I warned the affiliates we're going a little bit over. Mr. Shaw, please be brief. Unmute and be brief.
Yes, this is very, very quick. I'm leaning for Trump, or going to vote for Trump. But anyway, really, really quick. I think that if Shapiro is, speaking as a Jew, just an American Jew, she will be forced. She has to be forced to say she is a Zionist. If she doesn't say she's a Zionist, sometime in the next 90 days, that thing's going to unwind. Thank you.
Shalom. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day. I'll see you a little bit later. The three of us will see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. Same bad time, same bad channel. Sayonara.